So thank you everyone for joining us today in our continued webinar series. Today we're going to be running through our online portal, but before we do that, we've got a couple of slides just as a reminder for everyone, and then hopefully we'll go straight into the demo. The focus is on the portal today simply because we have made a few changes, so we just wanted to share those, but we'll be also sharing videos and updates separately as well. So I've got myself and Raluca with us today. We also have Karen joining us and Sophia from We Are Group. So just a quick reminder. So what is mental health crisis breathing space? So as always, there's two different types, as I'm sure you're familiar with. We have standard breathing space that provides protection for 60 days, and you can only enter it once in a 12-month period. Whereas mental health crisis breathing space is an unlimited time frame, and it lasts as long as the individual is receiving crisis treatment. It is a service across England. We do cover Wales as well. So anyone in England and Wales can be supported. They must be receiving qualifying mental health crisis treatment and have problem debt. And that is what is the eligibility criteria. In terms of who can apply, I won't go through the list, but you can see that on screen. Obviously, it's a wide range of people. Usually, we receive applications from the healthcare professionals involved in the individual's care, but there is a list on screen for what roles are allowed to apply. If you're unsure, just would suggest you send it in, and then we can deal with it and work with the right people involved to make sure we can process the application. Just a key slide. So there's two main roles involved when dealing with MHCBS. So we've got the AMP and the nominated point of contact. So the nominated point of contact is quite crucial because they're all the one involved in the day-to-day care, usually of the individual. Often they are mental health nurses or care coordinators. We know care coordinators as a job title is evolving. So we have seen titles such as key workers, and also more recently lead professional. So it may be that your job title isn't care coordinator, but you fulfill the roles of what was originally that title. So if you're a key worker and or a lead professional or any other title, please do submit the application. We may need to clarify with you, but normally we do let those in as well. And an AMP themselves can be an MPOC as well. The MPOC is the one that effectively provides us with the update. So every 20 to 30 days, we ask them that the person is still receiving crisis treatment, and you have 30 days to respond to that, what is called an interval check. On the AMP side, so an approved mental health professional, again, there are set roles that need to be under that. So you've got registered social workers, MH nurses, occupational therapists, practitioner psychologists. And the key thing is you've completed an AMP training course. In order for MHCBS to start, we do need an AMP to sign it off. It's quite crucial. Once the signature has happened, your role tends to end unless you are an MPOC, and then it continues. Two ways to apply. So we're going to go through the online portal in a moment through our demo, but if you have any issues with accessing the online portal, so we have had some trusts where we've been blocked, do reach out to us, do contact us. We can provide your IT teams with the required whitelisting IPs, excuse me. And then that usually lets us through. We've worked with a number of IT departments and NHS trusts who have made that change, so there should be no issues with it. If you have an application and you can't access the online portal for any reason, you can complete the manual form and just email it across to support@mhcbs.co.uk. And please use that email address for any questions or queries you may have at any point. In terms of the high-level application process, so we're going to show you how it works in a moment, so how it gets filled out. Once it's filled out, it will go off to the AMP to be signed. So if you're familiar with DocuSign, for example, electronic signatures, it is the same style. Once the app signs it, it comes into We Are Group. We then do eligibility and assessment checks, and then we progress based on eligibility. So if they're eligible, they will move into moratorium. And if they're ineligible, we will work with you to try and resolve it before we end it. But ultimately, if we cannot get the right response or the right outcome, it will be ineligible. That doesn't mean the person can't reapply. You can reapply. So as soon as the information is corrected, you can submit a new form and then we'll be ready to go. So I'm just going to bring up another screen and hopefully my team will tell me that that has loaded. But we're going to go into the demo of the application portal. So for this, if you head over to mhcbs.co.uk, could I just check you can see the online screen? Thank you, thumbs up. This is our website. It's got information about the service. You can see all sorts of information, any events and guidance and frequently asked questions. But for the purpose of now, you want to click Start an Application. That is the same way to log in as well. This will take you to our portal. So here you can access a number of help articles. You can search as well along the way. So if I search eligibility, it brings back anything that's got that word within it. So eligibility criteria is just there and it's a reminder for everyone. For the purposes of now, I'm going to log in. So you enter your email address and click login. What that will do is it will send an email to the email address if you're signed up with a 6-digit one-time password. So that's just come across to my inbox. You paste in the 6 digits. It's valid for 10 minutes. So it is time bound. You click verify and you are logged into our portal. When you are logged in, again, you can still access the help articles and any recent ones that have been added. If you are an NPOC and you are responsible for confirming crisis treatment, interval checks is where you want to head. So if I click on that for a moment, these are, as you can imagine, test applications, but these are all the ones outstanding where I am an NPOC. To process it, what you need to do is just click on the name. That will bring back the name of the individual. That's our internal case reference. But where you're drawn to is this right-hand side drop-down where you have the option to confirm to continue or confirm to end. Confirm to continue means they are still in mental health crisis treatment and receiving that, and therefore you are extending it for effectively another run, which is 30 days, and you just press confirm. That will be done. You can go back to your interval checks. It's now disappeared for me. And similarly, if we wanted to end one, you would just put confirm to end, and then all we require is the treatment end date. So normally the date they were discharged. So if I was to say the 5th of August and confirm, that will now process it as a confirm to end, and this individual will be exited out of the scheme. Important to note, when you tell us it's confirmed to end, from the date you enter, they receive 30 days as a cooling off period. So that gives them a chance to get back into more normal day-to-day life before creditors and so forth might start chasing them. I'm just going to run through a new application. So if you click on apply for MHCBS, I appreciate some of you will be very familiar with this, but we have made some changes in the last couple of weeks that will make it look slightly different. So when you apply, you will always be asked this question. So are you the debtor who's applying themselves, you're applying on behalf of someone else as their authorized representatives, or you're looking for more information? So I'm going to click on the second one. It will ask me what type. So if I go with mental health nurse, and then we just capture the trust for reporting purposes, you click next. Some information, but ultimately click next. And this is where you'll start to see some changes now. So before it used to be down the left-hand side, it's moved across the top. So we start to enter the information of the applicant or the client, effectively, the person you are looking after. Date of birth. So we'll put some fake details in. I wish I was 2000, but I'm not. You click next. What that will do, there was a brief pause there and it was doing a check. If you've already submitted an application with that name, it will come back to you and let you know so that we don't receive duplicate applications. But for now, that was a brand new. If you have further details, so middle name, email address, or mobile phone, you're welcome to enter that in of the client. Otherwise, it's just the address, city, postcode, and house number. You'll see this has been split out. We were receiving a lot of applications where we weren't getting the house name and number. So previously it used to be all merged in, but there is a new box now specifically for house name or number. A question around if there's any violence against them. If you do tick yes, we encourage you to enter as much information as possible into the box. We do have to check that before we process it, that it is correct. But for the purposes of now, I will just put no. In this additional information box that you can see at the bottom of the page, we would encourage you to enter as much information about the person's debts. So anything you're aware of, anything they've told you, if they're with the landlord's name, amounts if you've got it, but you can enter as much as possible in there. It really helps us process the application. We do run credit checks when we come to checking the application. However, the more you can provide, the easier it is for us. So you can do whichever way. You can do line break, etc., etc. You click next. These are my details. So obviously, because I've already got an account, it automatically puts this information in. So again, you're not having to re-enter that if you're familiar with doing it via paper. This is the AMP's detail. So for now, I will use my colleague's details. And what local authority. This is really important that you get the email address right. Obviously, when we click submit, it will send an email for that DocuSign element. Then you've got the information about the NPOC, so who will be the NPOC for the case. If you are the NPOC logged in, filling out the form, you can just see a checkbox here where it says, I'm going to be the nominated point of contact for this case. If you tick that, it will skip that section. If it's not yourself, for example, you're the AMP filling it out and you want to put the NPOC's details in, you're more than welcome to. Again, email address is really crucial because we will need that to validate it, and a telephone number, often office numbers, but mobile phone numbers, etc., and then what their role is. Slightly further down, you can see there is a secondary nominated point of contact. This is really important. We have a lot of NPOCs who are often on leave, especially this time of the year with holiday season. So if you could put a secondary NPOC or your duty manager, for example, your line manager, that really helps us when we do our interval checks, because we will contact them as well if their information is provided. So again, it is optional. You can tick the no secondary NPOC available. Otherwise, we would recommend you to fill it out, just so we can, if you're ever on leave or off sick or anything else, we've got a point of contact to reach to. Then that's the end. So I'm going to press submit. What happens now is that goes off to the AMP. So it is a time job. It doesn't happen instantly. But within what happens behind the scenes is it will create the PDF, the form, the manual form that you're familiar with. And it will then send it via something we call CongaSign, which is equivalent of DocuSign. It will go to the AMP. The AMP then logs in, signs it, and then once it's been signed off, it comes back into us to be processed. Other parts of the portal, if you have started an application and then you got stuck halfway through and couldn't complete it, If you click on applications, there will be applications loaded here in the incomplete application section, and any applications you have submitted will appear in the submitted applications. We do have a bit of a catch-all. So the one I've just done isn't showing because until the AMP signs it, it won't appear here. However, we are looking at that with our tech team. And that's effectively the portal. So we've gone through what a live application looks like, your interval checks in terms of if you're an MPOC and continuing to do that, and help articles as well, should you need any information. If there is anything on the portal that you're not happy with, it's not clear, please do contact us at support@mhcbs.co.uk, and we will do our best to try and resolve those issues along the way. So before we get to Q&A, I've just got a few last slides to run through. So yeah, if you've got any questions in the meantime, feel free to put them in the chat. But just a couple of more minutes from myself. Help articles I touched on. So there's this code on the screen now if you want to capture it. But that is on the portal, so that's there. We also have a content library. This is worth looking at. So again, if I bring that up very quickly, if you head over to mhcbs.co.uk, scroll down about halfway, you will see our content library. Within here, it's got everything from the regulations, what it is, frequently asked questions, and we also have demo videos of how to do the things I've just shown you. We are updating the how to submit an application given our changes, so that will be uploaded hopefully in the next few days. But yeah, this has got a number of articles and guidelines and everything else, so worth looking at if you want to learn more. And before we open up questions, we do have some free training available if you're interested. So can't get away from AI being mentioned everywhere you turn. So we have got a free course in partnership with Good Things Foundation. So it's open to anyone 18 plus in the UK. You can head over to the website wearegroup.com/AI training, or you can scan that code. It's about 10 hours of content, so it's not a lot of work in terms of time and effort, and you have 3 months to complete it. So effectively, it's about an hour a week, just under. So we've got lots of people signing up to it at the moment, so we didn't want to miss the opportunity to share it with you guys today. And at that point, I will hand over to Sophia to see if there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Amir. At the moment, there doesn't seem to be any questions. Oh, actually, we do have one. Thank you, Sandra. So she says, I am new to this portal. What do you consider a mental health crisis, and is there a time limit for the support? Raluca, I'll hand this to yourself if that's okay.
Yes, thank you, Sophia. Hi, everyone. So very good question. Obviously, mental health crisis treatment is defined in the dead respite regulations, and we can put a link to that so you have the actual definitions. And in terms of mental health crisis breathing space, there is no time limit for the support. So once a client is eligible for the scheme, they are entered into the scheme and they stay there for as long as they receive mental health crisis treatment, plus an extra 30 days after the crisis treatment ends. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Raluca. And sticking with yourself, if that's okay, we've had another question which asks, do people have to be admitted to the ward before we can refer them to breathing space?
No, so the definition looks at least two types of mental health crisis treatment. One is within the mental health community care, but it has to be of the same severity as if someone was detained in a hospital or in a place of safety. And it is for an approved mental health practitioner to certify that that patient and their treatment meets the conditions as required by the debt respite regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Raluca, for that. Amir, just going to yourself, if that's okay. So if someone does send, obviously, an application through the portal, what would you say, the average response time of like the process afterwards?
So we will try and deal with all applications within 2 working days. In all honesty, it can be done quicker. So if we have all the information that is accurate and correct, we have put people within quick as 30 minutes into the scheme. So when you are filling out the application form, we just need to make sure that the MPOC is of one of those roles mentioned, so a care coordinator, a mental health nurse, or an AMP themselves. We need to make sure an AMP is an AMP. Try and use full names and actual names as well, because obviously when we do our checks, sometimes people use short names or nicknames, and therefore we have to return back to you to verify. And as long as the individual has a debt, our processing is usually done very quickly. So we have a team working on this around the clock effectively between 9 and 5 every day, and they are processing applications as quick as we receive them. If there are any issues, we will return to the appropriate person. So sometimes that might be the person referring in, it might be the AMP, or it might be the MPOC. Just look out for emails from ourselves, so that will come from an MHCBS domain, or our partner, which is Toynbee Hall. So they might email you, usually from an email address that is breathingspace@toynbeehall.org.uk.
Perfect. Thank you, Amir, for that. And then we've just had a question from Samantha. So it says you have to verify any AMPs that are not registered with SWE, such as nurses, OTS, and psychologists. None of our
Yeah, I'll jump in. Sophia,
it's
on that.
okay, thank you.
Samantha's absolutely correct. And hi, Samantha. We do see you popping up regularly on applications. Yeah, so if we can't validate anything with the SWE, we do need to check. Hence why we do it. However, once we've done a check, we do have a central list. So if you've been verified, we then won't check that AMP for another 12 months normally. We may ask for your warrant card, for example, along the way as well. We've not put that into the portal because we didn't want to delay applications, but you're more than welcome to send, if you're unsure, if you want to email us at support@mhcbs.co.uk with your warrant card after submitting an application. That will really help as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Amir, for that. And then we've also had another question. Raluca, if I can give the question to yourself, is there a limit to the number of times that someone can apply for the scheme?
Thank you, Sophia. No, there's no limit. So as long as that patient meets the eligibility criteria of the scheme, they can reapply as many times as they need.
Perfect. Thank you, Raluca. And I guess some just frequently asked questions as well. So when signing the referral form, AMPs must obviously insert their first name and last name. What if, for example, it's the only information you have is AMP's team's email addresses? What information do you put then?
I'll take that one. So if you only have a shared email, put that in for now. When we do our checks, we will have to verify that is correct. Ultimately, we want a work email address. So where possible, normally you would have a personal but work email address. So we would prefer that. But maybe in the secondary box, you could put the team one. That's probably the best way to approach it when submitting an application. If for some reason you do not have a work email and you only have a shared inbox, and I appreciate that will be rare, put that in for submission and then we will reach out separately to you as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Amir, for that. And then I guess another question for yourself, if that's okay. But in terms of like the applications, do you hold the data for how many have been accepted within each region?
Yes, so we are slowly, through our newsletter, we're slowly starting to publish some stats every now and again. So when you submit an application, we can give you data based on the trust that's selected, and we can break that down between eligible and ineligible. Obviously, we collect the local authority data, so we could break it down that way. We'll be hopefully sharing more of that through our newsletters. So if you are signed up to them, keep an eye out. If you're not signed up, just either put your name in the chat and we can add you, or email us again at support@mhcbs.co.uk and we can add you to the distribution list.
Perfect. Thanks, Amir. And then another question for yourself, Raluca, if that's okay. So in terms of someone being under the MHCBS scheme, if they're under the scheme for years and they're in hospital for a long time, then sorry, I'll repeat the question. Can someone be under the MHCBS scheme for years if they are in hospital for a long time, then discharged under a community team?
Yes, thank you, Sophia. Very good, complex question. But yes, as Amir has explained, every 20 to 30 days, we are bound by the scheme to check if the person who is in mental health crisis breathing space is continuing to receive mental health crisis treatment. So if the community care treatment that they're receiving meets the same conditions, then it can continue. And we have had situations where clients, unfortunately, didn't feel better, so they met the conditions and stayed in the scheme for a long time. But it has obviously the advantage of being protected against enforcement from creditors, so they can actually focus on getting better and their health. Thank you.
And just to add to that as well, sorry, side point, just in the last 30 seconds we might have. Sometimes we see people say they're only going to be with us for a week or two and therefore not submitting applications. We would strongly encourage you to still submit an application, because even if they're only with you for a week or two, if you then tell us treatment has ended, they get that 30-day cooling off period. So straight away, by default, they get an extra month of protection. So I know it can be, I know everyone's busy and it might feel like a long process to go through, but we would encourage you to submit applications, even if you think they're only going to be with you for a week or two, simply because it gives them those 30 days in cooling off period. Sorry, just to jump that in.
No, it's all good. Thank you both. So we've probably got another 30 seconds, I'd say. So I'd leave the Q&A session there and just want to thank everyone for joining. If, say, for example, after this session, you do have any further questions, please feel free to email us at support@mhcbs.co.uk and one of us will get back to you. And also, just for everyone's benefit as well, we will be sharing some follow-up communications with this webinar recording in afterwards, and it will also be shared on our content library as well. So this will be uploaded for everyone in future. Thanks, everyone.